If you had around $80 to spend on a bottle of Bordeaux, would you choose the elegance of Pessac-Léognan or the richness of Saint-Émilion? After more than 30 years of collecting Bordeaux, these are two of the estates I return to again and again. Not because they are the most famous, but because they consistently deliver the kind of quality that makes me wonder why I would spend considerably more. When I first started building my cellar, I wanted wines that offered real distinction without stretching my budget. I also wanted variety, a chance to understand how Bordeaux's different terroirs shape the wines. That's exactly how I discovered Château Haut-Bailly and Clos Fourtet. They come from opposite sides of Bordeaux, yet both have remained permanent fixtures in my cellar for decades. Even more remarkable, their latest vintages still retail for around $75 to $80. In this video, I will compare two bottles from my cellar, explain how differently they taste, which dishes they pair best with, and ultimately, which one I would recommend depending on the kind of Bordeaux you enjoy. And one final thought before we begin. While you are still discovering your preferences, buy 3 or 6 bottles rather than a full case of 12. A cellar should evolve alongside your taste. Although both produce world-class Bordeaux, Haut-Bailly and Clos Fourtet represent two completely different philosophies. If you enjoy Cabernet Sauvignon's restraint, freshness, and quiet elegance, you will probably find yourself drawn towards Haut-Bailly. If you prefer richer textures, darker fruit, and the generosity that red Merlot can bring, Clos Fourtet may be the better fit. The reason begins with where they are grown. Pessac-Léognan. Located on the left bank, just south of Bordeaux, Pessac-Léognan is unique among Bordeaux appellations for producing both outstanding reds and dried whites, although reds remain the majority. Its history stretches back to the English rule of Aquitaine between 1152 and 1453, when these wines became known as the original claret. The region is home to Château Pape-Clément, founded in 1252, Bordeaux's oldest named estate. By the 1660s, Emilion had already become Bordeaux's first internationally celebrated chateau, long before the Medoc reached its own golden age. Curiously, however, the Pessac-Léognan appellation itself wasn't officially created until 1987. Before then, the vineyards formed part of the Grave appellation and were known informally as Haut-Grave. Among all the Grave estates, only Emilion was included in the 1855 classification, where it earned first growth status. Saint-Émilion. Across the river on the right bank, Saint-Émilion tells an even older story. Although the earliest vineyards remain difficult to date precisely, important wine estates already existed during Roman times. One belonged to Ausonius, poet, wine-grower, and Roman consul during the 4th century. Viticulture continued to expand throughout the Middle Ages. Then, during the 12th century under English rule, the creation of the port of Libourne opened new trade routes that helped establish Saint-Émilion as one of Bordeaux's red wine regions. By then, the area was already producing wines of remarkable quality. Now, let's see how those histories translate into the glass. Château Haut-Bailly. If I had to describe Haut-Bailly in one sentence, it would be this. It's one of the finest examples of elegance on Bordeaux's left bank. Founded in 1630 by Firmin Le Bailly, the estate reached its first golden era during the late 19th century before falling into decline. Its revival began in 1955 when Belgian wine merchant Daniel Sanders purchased the property and started extensive replanting. His son, Jean, continued the restoration from 1979, expanding the vineyards back to around 30 hectares. In 1998, American banker Robert Wilmers acquired the chateau and kept Jean Sanders in charge. When Jean retired in 2000, his daughter, Véronique Sanders, took over, and under her leadership, Haut-Bailly has quietly become one of the most consistent estates in Pessac-Léognan. What makes it different isn't just winemaking. Its vineyards sit together on one of the appellation's highest gravel rises, producing wines that combine concentration with remarkable finesse, while avoiding the earthy rusticity sometimes found elsewhere in Grave. In the glass, I find dark fruits, leather, tobacco, cedar, freshly turned earth, and dried flowers. The palate layers black cherry, black currant, wine strawberry, raspberry, raw cocoa, licorice, baking spice, and graphite with beautiful precision. What I love most is how effortless it feels. There's real structure underneath, but it's wrapped in silky fruit and remarkable freshness. Power never comes at the expense of elegance. The 2024 vintage, a blend of 58% Cabernet Sauvignon, 40% Merlot, and 2% Cabernet Franc, currently retail for around $80. The 2025 is also around $80, while the acclaimed 2022 is now closer to $175. Clos Fourtet. If Haut-Bailly is about quiet restraint, Clos Fourtet is about generosity without excess. Built as a medieval fortress, the estate became a wine property during the 18th century, with its ancient ramparts still surrounding the chateau today. After passing through several prominent Saint-Émilion families, it's entered a new chapter in 2001 when Philippe Cuvelier purchased the estate. He invested heavily, replanting weaker parcels, modernizing the winery, and eventually converting to biodynamic farming in 2018. Today, the property is managed by his son Mathieu, and the dramatic rise in quality over the past 2 decades has firmly established Clos Fourtet among Saint-Émilion's elite. Part of that success comes from its exceptional terroir. The vines sit on shallow clay over limestone, giving the wines a combination of richness, freshness, and minerality that is instantly recognizable. On the nose, I find blue and black fruits, incense, undergrowth, and violets. The palate is generous, layering blackcurrant, blueberry, kirsch, baked plum, dark chocolate, and a subtle touch of menthol before finishing long and beautifully textured. Although the wine is unmistakably Merlot-driven, it never feels heavy. The limestone keeps everything bright, energetic, and remarkably refined. The addition of fruit from the neighboring Grande Muraille vineyard has only strengthened the estate's recent releases. The 2024 vintage, a blend of 84% Merlot, 10% Cabernet Franc, and 6% Cabernet Sauvignon, currently retail for around $75. The 2025 is also around $75, and the 2022 is now around $130. The verdict. For me, this isn't about deciding which wine is better. It's about deciding which style of Bordeaux suits the occasion. Choose Haut-Bailly if you enjoy the classic left-bank style. Cabernet Sauvignon led, refined, quietly powerful, and beautifully composed. It's a wine that seems to gain confidence rather than lose freshness as it ages. Choose Clos Fourtet if you are drawn to the richness and generosity of Great Saint-Émilion. Its Merlot-led blend delivers darker fruit, greater texture, and remarkable depth, yet the limestone soils keep everything fresh and beautifully balanced. Around the table, my choice usually depends on what's being served. For roast lamb, game birds, mushroom dishes, or anything with earthy flavors, I naturally reach for Haut-Bailly. Its cedar, graphite, and fine tannins complement those savory flavors beautifully. For richer dishes, slow-braised beef, duck, short ribs, or creamy sauces, Clos Fourtet is often my first choice. Its generous fruit and silky texture stand up effortlessly to fuller flavors. If I were rebuilding my cellar, I honestly wouldn't choose between them. I would buy both at around $75 to $80 on release. They remain two of the finest values in their respective appellations, and two bottles I continue to buy today. If you had to choose just one, would you reach for the refined elegance of Haut-Bailly or the rich generosity of Clos Fourtet? I would love to hear which side you are on, and if there is another left bank versus right bank comparison you would like to see next, let me know in the comment section below. You will find more of my cellar insights and tasting notes on Instagram. Massive thanks for watching today, and I will see you in the next one.